Yeah, these videos are kind of short, aren't they? I know so. Okay, it's 2:02 in the West Coast time in the morning. Me without my coffee. I don't need my coffee just yet. August 1st, 2024 for a Thursday. It's the Weaver Agency of Roseman, California. Your zombie out here who's emotionally screwed up and sleep deprived. Okay, back to geology again. We were talking about uh, land movements. We're also talking about slip sliding away with the landslides left and right, stabilizations, and sticking tubes into the ground of drainage. We are still learning more and more about geology every time there's incidents like this of what we can do and what we can't do. I'm not an engineer. I am not a academic credentialed, okay? I haven't been in the fields long enough to earn my stripes. I watch, I listen, I try to analyze. I'm a layman at this damn stuff. I'm a journeyman. I'm a beginner at this damn stuff, okay? I haven't had the years of experience of going out there and saying what I think. Yeah, well, I'm watching, I'm listening to what other people are saying, then I have to watch this stuff and thinking, okay, are they knowledgeable or are they not knowledgeable? And especially when you have meetings that are running into city councils that they don't even have the information necessary. Last night, as I said before in my previous video, there was a Zoom meeting happening. Rancho, in a community of a peninsula sticking out like a sore thumb in the California coastline. And it's the peninsula that houses a lot of communities. So Rancho, Palos Verdes, Rolling Estates, maybe a couple others. I just had to. Okay, what do we got? Palos Verdes Estates. Okay, so this knob sticking out in the LA County area, right by the ports. You know, it used to have amusement park, as I said before, but now, over the past 50 years, we've got people living on it. And now people are freaking out because the land's no longer stable enough. And they wonder why. And I tried to explain as much as my poor knowledge of geology is, but just observational, is that we got the area sliding away. And it's because we got mineral, we got activity, we got human activity. And I was going to be bringing up something here along the California coastline. And then it kind of reminded me of certain areas in more stabilized, we think, landscapes, but not quite because we have a way of screwing things up. And uh, I was reminded of a passageway between two counties and two states. And I was seeing a geologist, trying to understand a geologist's point of view on YouTube of how he thinks one particular situation should have been avoided at all costs, and whether or not if this wasn't going to be there or not. I know this was happening between Idaho and Wyoming, between Casper and that stuff. I'd made markings on my Google Maps on this one, so if I indulge upon you folks to do Google Maps one more time, if you can go to your tabs on your computers or your phones, if you got the stuff there, I want you to try locating Jackson, Wyoming. Scratching your head on that one, aren't you? Okay. Now, keep this in mind. If you happen to get this little particular area here that's popped up, widen the shot a little bit until you probably see this 101 highway going through. Or is it 191? 191 highway going through it. You'll see a community called, on the right hand side, Kelly, Moose, Beaver Creek. It's part of a national park, the Grand Teton National Park. It's a good landmark right there. And also keep this in mind that there are roadways from one area on the middle to the left uh, that people are trying to use to get to like Wilson, Jackson, South Park to work. And there's like an hour and a half way of getting around things like that. There are highways for that. People wanted a shortcut. So between the area, it looked like a canyon, and you have this huge wall of rock here. Looked like it's snowy. And pretty much when it gets snowy, it's skiing weather, traffic like crazy, but both areas are just beautiful to look at here. When this photograph was made and put out there, it's done back in 2024, the reason we got for Lance out there. I'm seeing that there's one huge valley on the left-hand side on the Idaho side. You have several communities over there. You got Alta, you got Drags, you got Chapin, you got Victor. But in that area, you have this squiggly thing going through it. This squiggly thing is what they have an issue with because there's a certain area I was trying to talk about in one of my earlier videos about this one that I'm trying to bring up on this particular issue dealing with Rancho Verdes. I said before, I ask questions. I'm curious about things. So I tried to listen to the geologists, including structural geologists, who study this stuff, experiment, but they also use by observations what works and what doesn't work. And the communities between them both created this passageway through it. One particular section of it, there's a little bit of a crook in there somewhere. But there was a landslide a couple of months back. A couple of months back on this one. And it totally disrupted the flow of traffic. And just pure, the road collapsed. Hell, it just, from a flat surface of road, and it just, but there was a bit of a difference on this one concerning about the minerals and material and how it's constructed compared to Rancho. But in my head, it's almost similar because we still put roads through it. And somehow with our grading and degrading areas and putting in what they call fill, their version of junk to stabilize an area so they can put concrete on top of it and then you can drive on it. Either heavy or basic commuting through the thing. But after a lot of changes happening with the weather in the area and movement and a lot of pressure on it, it collapsed the road. It collapsed the road. So then both sides had to struggle studying the problem again and then try to get construction crews out there to remake it all over again. I gotta locate this guy's information online for this because I'd like to get that information put back in just as a reference. But you're gonna scream and yell at me. How does this handle Rancho Palos Verdes? Because in a situation when I'm looking at for the roads between Idaho and Wyoming, this was human filled stuff. They use a material that's not structurally sound enough, but they wanted to put stuff in there very quickly to put roads on. And then I go back over to Rancho Palos Verdes and also along the coastline of California. Okay, before I go back to Rancho, I'm going down to San Clemente, California, which is between Long Beach and San Diego. And in that community, if you happen to see this long stretch, a bit windy because it's going along the coastline here. But Carlsbad, Oceanside, San Clemente, and that section over there. Well, in that section over there is where they actually had problems concerning about soil creep and land movement because the minerals over there were just as weak with enough pressure and time and stuff on it that rail lines were having issues on this one concerning about commercial and about Amtrak is what I was hearing and reading about on this. They may have gotten some areas stabilized enough where they can actually get some traffic through it, but for a long while, PCH, which followed along that area, including number 5. Number 5 wasn't having any issues, but it was roadside that they still had issues over it. And it's still scary. Looking at the sloped landscape, it's just. And there are passageways. There are natural, craggly passageways to maneuver fluid to get down to the coastline. If when there's going to be any liquids going on, the water usually eats away the soil and minerals to create its craggly areas to get to areas. But if there's not enough water in the water table, the ground's going to go on the water, and thus increasing pressure in the ground, which we're seeing in action. Some people think this is not natural. Well, this is natural. This is nature. This is what we're seeing. And we still have to deal with that. We have to deal with situations like this because it also happens deep inland. And I'm not just talking about Idaho and Washington, it happens all over the place. Is that we still have to keep on our toes regarding our own landscapes. I'll tell you some of the areas that usually drive me crazy here. I mean, it's a beautiful landscape and beautiful beach to drive through at least a few times in my lifetime. To live in the area is one thing. Passing through, I'd rather prefer doing that instead of just living in the area because it's putting a hell of a lot of pressure and stuff. So I'm wondering whether or not the landscapes are going to be stable enough for people left and right along the coastline. But this is what you're coming out to California, right? See the coastline, see the houses on here. It's one thing when you got water coming up and swallowing everything up. No, it's another thing when you have landscapes slip sliding away on things left and right. So, looking how our geology is these days, I go back over to inland. I go back over to the desert where I live in the Antelope Valley, the Wedge area. Now keep this in mind, boys and girls. I look at this landscape. I don't think like there's a solid bedrock. Maybe there is solid bedrock, but underneath that, we have layers. We have sedimentary layers. We have layer upon layer upon layer. It's like building a cake, squishing it down. It's not light. It's not fluffy, but it's still there. But if there's enough moisture, it gives it enough jiggle, and then we have issues. We had the 1994 earthquake. We didn't expect that our cake got rattled and went jiggly. Living through the earthquakes are not fun, I'll tell you that much. Especially when you're living in a bowl area where sediment and stuff come down from a mountain. After being built up for so long, and then you have weathering, which is water wearing things out, smoothing and moving the stuff downwards. Why is it moving downwards? Well, we have a thing called gravity. That's why. That's why we're able to be here. And let me see. Let me get an example here. Force of gravity. Earth is spinning so much, putting so much pressure as it's constantly maneuvering around the sun, but also spinning on its axis. Sometimes stuff that we do with it may be changing the axis around. I'm hearing stories about that one too. I still got to research. And if we are affecting the Earth's axis, well, then we're slowing it down a little bit. But we still have gravity, which forces us to be on our feet and standing and not floating off or flying off somewhere. But with all that force of energy, making sure the water is going downwards and not scattered around all over the damn place, we have valley floors built up on layers. It takes years and years and years and years. Way longer than what you and I remember. And with a hell of a lot of compaction on the thing, you think it's going to be stable enough. We assume so. And with the minerals we have in it, we think maybe it'll be stable enough and not soluble, unless we actually have a lot of water happening in that area. To which we have sinkholes happening all over the damn place because in certain minerals that we have that we don't even realize unless we really be like geologists and understand it, that there are certain rocks that are dissolvable in liquid. You've heard of the Carlsbad Caverns, right? You can Google a picture of that one. And you see the things sticking down and you see things sticking up, but usually almost close to each other, right? So if you haven't looked at those pictures and you're wondering, gee, how'd that work? Well, with a lot of minerals being dissolved by the water, that's being pointed down by gravity. But then you got the mounds that are being built up. They call them stalagmites because they might touch. And we have stalactites because they're held. But if they happen to form a column of the mineral, that means they all touched and all fused. But for the most part, you're going to see stuff hanging down. You're going to see stuff pointing up. Dissolvable minerals, dissolvable rock. And some of that rock is also, hold on to your hats, boys and girls, used to be skeletons of things made of minerals. And we are also made of minerals. Calcium, that's a rock material, but we need the rock material for our own stability, for our own bones. Life, there is too much metaphysics, too much metaphysical on this one I could get into, and I'm not doing it this way. But keep this in mind that the ground in certain spots may be dissolvable. So if there's enough shaking or enough movement or enough moisture happening in the rock basin and in the rock beds themselves that we're standing on top of, if there's enough minerals being dissolved to create a cavern, then that pressure on top is forcing indentation, and then we don't know where, when, until it happens. And then we have the geologists arguing with everybody else and the politicians, and God knows what else is going on. The nature of humanity. As I look at the San Fernando Valley with that dissolvable mineral happening in there, it was allowing a lot of damage because we had shifting of rock. We had fault lines shifting at that point. And that force of energy just to do that echoed like crazy. We recently had an earthquake up in Barstow. They said it was about 22 miles away from it and about so much deep. But the energy of that movement there echoed a lot of area through a lot of areas, unsettled everything. But the rocks were vibrating when they got that energy, so we felt all the vibrations happening, as much as I could figure it out. That's why out here in Roseman, California, or armpit of Antelope Valley, we felt Barstow's quake. It was a rolling kind of a feel there. Imagine that feeling a lot more intense in a bowl. You have layers and layers of your cake here. You thought it was going to be a solidified, magnificent pieces. And oh, I'm sorry, something liquid or something like that, or something made pressure and time to move the cake one way or another. And then you see the ripple effect. Or think about it as this way. Jello. You know what gelatin's like. You have it solidified and it's wavy. You can shake the thing. You can see the vibrations on the thing. Imagine the rock layers being like that, turning into jello, and then you're seeing everything else going. Yeah. That's what we felt back in '94, and every time the ground shakes, that's how we feel it everywhere else. But slip sliding away, We deal with mudslides because on top of certain soils we have plants holding in the rock together. Deep roots of a living plant would hold the rocks together and also hold the liquid in certain areas where we're not having all that much mudslides and landslides. But get rid of the top cover of it, you destroy the root system and make the rocks slip, slide, and away. We get the mudslides, we get the mud flows. Give it enough pressure and time, even worse. This is not to scare the living crap out of you. This is not like an October situation saying, here's something to scare the living crap out of you with October, guys. No, this is regular everyday life we're dealing with right now. Geology is happening all over us. We can't fix it, change it, deal with it. We have to accept it, acknowledge it, and live with the damn thing. This is how it is. Most of our daily lives, we can just deal with what is. It's not like we're going to be looking at, is the ground moving? No, you're moving your head. Are you sure about that? I'm getting sick and tired of doing this. No, I say go back to your life. Go back to living what you're doing, but be amazed of science going around you. There's going to be a lot of people talking about science sucks, and we got to be dealing with biblical stuff. We got to deal with metaphysics. We got to be dealing with someone else's mouth left and right of what they think it should be, and then you got to live and deal with that because they say so. No, I say be skeptical, be learning, keep your mind open, and look at the world around you. You'll be amazed how scary and sometimes it is, and terrifying it is, but other times it's happening before you. You just never even bother to notice. Sometimes it's quite fascinating. I may not like life forms as much. Bugs, bug war, forget it. I can't stand it. I can't deal with it. But I'm dealing with geology at this point, rocks. It's like dealing with cosmos and its cosmic beauty and also cosmic dangers out there. It's life, it's nature, it's the thing we have to deal with on a constant basis, fighting for survival. We challenge ourselves every time we go on a damn cruise ship, whether or not the damn thing's going to go tip over or not because of a rogue wave going through it. We make the ships hopefully stable enough, but there's enough pressure and time and energy going through that a wave, a rogue wave that we don't even see coming, at least underneath, will make a ship be prone to seasickness. At best, maybe it'll override the thing and we won't know it except for me being at bump, or maybe on the worst case scenario. Too many videos on that one, but I don't I don't think it's photoshopped every time I keep seeing stuff like that. And I still want to go back on the water. Haven't been out on a hell of a long while. I'm landlocked. I miss it. I miss going to the beach. I miss going to the beach and feeling the waves on my feet. I miss seeing and smelling the air. I live in those kind of romantic times in my head of what used to be as a kid. That compared to now, yeah, compared to now. So, that being said, boys and girls, I'm hoping, I'm shooting, and I'm praying for the city of Rancho, Palos Verdes, and the peninsula itself to find a solution that's not going to crush every damn community out there and put everybody else into the ocean. If there's a way of doing hydrology, basically sticking tubes in the ground to release the water pressure, let's hope that works. They say it costs millions, and they're not kidding on this one. Because we are talking about finding where the artesian well is, the lake of water underneath the ground, buried alive like the worm is, and then finding a way to get that water transported by extending tubes into that aquifer and taking it to the beach, taking it to the beach line and drain the water that way. They say it takes money. It takes time. It takes effort. Well, let's hope they got the time and the money and the effort for this one. I still like to see that place not collapsing into the ocean. I'd like to see our coastlines having that kind of issue get stabilized enough. And then I keep wondering, and I'm keeping hoping, and I'm going to have to keep hope alive on this one, that the cliffs that we keep burying into just to get a roadway underneath, and we got the slide, and we got the landscape looking like this. I'm hoping that stuff doesn't come down. I'm hoping the grounds are stable enough. Every time we have rain, every time we have water coming in, we worry about if the aquifers are going to get filled up enough that we're going to be running into sliding situations. We don't know when or where. We don't know because we haven't heard the ticking clock yet. And if we heard the ticking clock, then maybe we would find out how much time we have per section or per area or however they're going to measure this thing. That we don't have slides. It's either it's caused by pressure, time, and enough lubricant on that one. And that being said, I think I'm going to slide it back to my bed and sleep for a bit. I'm going to save the video, post it out a little bit later. But I still want to keep on top. I want to keep on tabs and on up to date on Palos Verdes. See, I got no connection with it except I'm a Californian. I wanted to go in that area a long time ago when they actually had marine land, but now they got communities out there. But I had been out there one time, though, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see something here. A long time ago, and this is a personal story on this one here. There are lighthouses that there it is. People use for navigation along the waters and make sure that they're not going to run into any rocks or shoals or anything else like that. And they're still in use, but they're also a tourist trap. They're a navigational piece for both online as well as in person. We see them in television shows throughout our lifetimes. Don't even realize it, or even in the movies. You ever seen the show V back in the 80s? Or ever heard of it? Back in mid to late 80s? Without giving too much of the plot away, we had aliens coming down acting like big help when then it turned out to be not so much of a help. They were being carnivorous. And the humans started to fight back against these guys. And one of the rebel headquarters they actually had was filming on top of the U.S. Coast Guard reservation, which actually has the lighthouse on it, which has been used for many years as uh, Houston Phillips and stuff like that. So I remember coming into this area at one time, trying to figure out where the hell my brother and I were at. We were trying to find one particular place, and we lost track where the hell we were. So we decided, okay, stop off at a stopped off at a diner. Called it a choke and puke at one time, and it had a bunch of bikers in there. And they were helpful enough to tell us where the hell we were and where the hell we weren't. After thanking them, drinking our sodas and eating fries, we went on our way again to find a particular place to go to. But I remember seeing that area because of the scenic lighthouse. And I thought to myself how beautiful it looked out there in that area. Well, if I knew about the damn geology during that time, maybe I wouldn't have been. But it was there. With that being said, guys, even such beauty like that still needs to be preserved if we can for future generations. But knowing nature, nature is going to say, my way, not your way. The area I was talking about is called Point Vincent. Point Vincent Lighthouse. There are certain areas along the highway that if you traveled along the one, Highway 1. Nice, beautiful areas. Just keep in mind there was a hell of a lot of traffic and a hell of a lot of human activity in the area. Uh, that you have to be careful of a lot of things. I've seen a lot of places being destroyed left and right by activity and inactivity, and right now the estates are in trouble. And what they build up to entertain and house people. I look at all this property. I'm looking at all the stuff that we have. I'm looking at the things that they used for photographic materials. I'm looking at things that people just want to see the California experience that way. Track homes, left and right, businesses, tourist clubs, expensive real estate, all in that area just to get the California view. And one particular area called the Wayfarer's Chapel was on a mountainside. Close to the, it was on a hillside, it was close to the edge. And this was very photogenic. On, and it's on Narcissa Drive. This was the area that people would use to do photography on. This is for events, for special places, or just for a tourist trap. Because of the scenery, because it was California, because whatever stigma we had going on at that time. And a beautiful place to look at things. It's now become like a thing of the past. And they're trying to fight like hell to keep their communities alive. Alive. I'm going to get a PDF on that one for Wayfarer's Chapel. It's permanently closed and shut down and turned into gravel already. Because there was no way of saving the grounds. There was no way of saving the stuff. I mean, they salvaged as much as they could, but the rest of the stuff had to be. They salvaged what they could. And they've been out there for about 40 or 50 years, and as well as the communities. So, let's see. There's, alright, save the PDF file picture on that one. Okay, that being said, guys, sleep.